Hi, my name is Maureen Wilson. I'm the counselor for Ward 1 in the City of Hamilton. I'm here right now at a very, very special place, Princess Point, a place of a long history, a place of indigenous settlement and gathering. And we're here with Tice and Lindsay of the RBG to learn about their controlled burn plan.
Hi there, I'm Tice Ticemeyer. I'm head of natural areas at Royal Botanical Gardens. So here we are down at Princess Point at Royal Botanical Gardens, named for the big peninsula of land that sticks out into Cootes Paradise Marsh. And a significant proportion still exists in a relatively original and natural state. In history, this area was a landing for indigenous people and a travel route onto Lake Erie or just into Upper Hamilton, but certainly a place that was cultivated and using fire to keep the land open and the trees suppressed and the meadows growing is a traditional use of this area over the past thousands of years, and it's in the only recent history that we return to this traditional history.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Barr. I am the terrestrial ecologist at Royal Botanical Gardens, and right now we are gearing up for our spring controlled burn at Princess Point. So a controlled burn is when expert consultants work with us to light our prairie on fire, and this is a rare habitat. So the grasses are adapted to fire conditions. We like to do the burn early in spring because that's when the native grasses are still dormant, but the non-native invasive species are starting to green up. Now when the fire goes through, it harms the non-native plants while promoting new space for the native grasses to grow. The reason why we use controlled burns is to restore rare plant habitat. At Princess Point, you can find tallgrass prairie and oak savanna. And these are home to very, very rare plants in Ontario that provide habitat for very at-risk and rare insects and pollinators and wildlife, such as birds that only nest in tall grass prairies.
So while prescribed burns are excellent for suppressing trees that would otherwise plug up a meadow and savanna, one of the more troublesome plants we still have here at Princess Point reflects its park history. So while it's never been plowed or things of that nature, for a long time it was mowed as turf grass, and what was introduced here was very successful turf grass, which now is one of the top things to try and manage against.
We started burning at Princess Point starting in 2005, and that is when we burned the oak savanna habitat. In 2008 and onward, we started burning the fields at Princess Point in hopes to restore rare tallgrass prairie habitat. As we've burned, we control invasive species, and then also we follow up the burn with seeding the area with native tallgrass prairie plants.
So when we do a controlled burn, certainly everything in the path of the fire is up for trouble. If you're a non-native species, you hopefully are singed. If you're a native plant, you're hopefully dormant. And if you're wildlife, well, if you're still there, that's a problem. You're probably going to run out of the way. But here's the good news. Before we do the burn, we go through the whole area and chase out the wildlife, including hunting down the snakes. So, in theory, everybody comes out okay. So, to undertake a controlled burn in this challenging setting of a semi-urban area, we bring in a specialist in doing controlled fires, and what they do is they set the edge on fire away from the water. We look for the right winds when we do it, and the fire moves towards the water. There's a break line behind us, and so the fire can't go the wrong way, and it goes across the land in a wave. So to undertake a controlled burn, it requires very particular weather conditions in the spring. A, the ground has to be dry. B, it shouldn't be overcast. And C, it shouldn't be windy. So when the ground is dried up enough and the winds are calm, that's when we take on the project. And of course, you cannot forecast the weather, so it's sort of a 2 days in advance. Looks like that's the day, and away we go. And we post that on the RBG website. So the impact to air quality. Temporarily, obviously, it'll be a little bit smoky. The direction of the winds is critical to the day we do it, and that we do not want the smoke to be drifting into the community. So the smoke will eventually settle, and it'll just, in theory, settle back on the RBG property in the wilderness.
After the burn, we're going to plant the area with a bunch of native plants. These are native grasses, tall grasses that we're trying to establish at Princess Point. Some of the grasses include little bluestem, big bluestem, switchgrass, and Indian grass. We've actually started growing these ourselves from seed that we collected from Princess Point, from the plants that were already growing here. We have about 6,000 plants that we're going to plant this spring, so we rely on our wonderful RBG volunteers to help us get these plants in the ground. And we'll be doing this during the month of April and May, after the burn, of course.
I'd like to thank Tice and Lindsay and our growing knowledge of the importance of native plants, the work that is involved in bringing these places back to nature so that it can be more livable for the creatures that depend on that habitat. Thank you very much for watching.